Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
It's a very cold and breezy day in Delhi today, so wind chill is also high. It will do two things. One, I keep telling you about the challenge of timing. So this will make me more disciplined with my timing because you can't last out too long in this weather outdoors. And second, it might make me revisit my obsession with wearing kurta pajamas, particularly when I'm working from home for the rest of the winter. Having said that, this is also a year, almost exactly a year, since the first cases of what was then seen as a mysterious pneumonia diagnosed in Wuhan in China. So this pneumonia was not responding to usual pneumonia treatment, and because doctors there had the experience of SARS earlier and other such viral illnesses, they began to get suspicious. That was around this time in December last year. So the first anniversary, if you wish to observe this, of the most life-changing calamity, global calamity of our lives, of our times. We haven't seen a world war, but we have seen a pandemic of this size. You want to know how bad it is? At this point, more than 7 crores people have been diagnosed as coronavirus positive. About 1.6 million, that is 16 lakh people, have died globally. Also, a lot has changed in the past year. We have learned a lot. The world has learned a lot. So it's because of these learnings, for example, that global fatality rates are coming down. When they started, they were almost 4 to 5%, 6% also. They are now down generally a little bit below 3. In fact, many countries like India, which are outliers, in fact, almost all countries in Asia are outliers. It remains below 2%. But over time, doctors have also learned. They've learned to use steroids for people who had viral pneumonia, COVID pneumonia, and that's been a lifesaver. Some new drugs have come in, and now as the vaccines are being approved, many people, many experts are hailing the end of the pandemic. Let us keep our fingers crossed. Now remember, this was a new virus. This was a new virus even to the extent that it was called the novel coronavirus. So our epidemiologists, our scientists, virologists, clinicians, policymakers, politicians, they had no experience of this virus. So many of the formulae or many of the approaches that were applied to dealing with this pandemic were based on our experience of earlier viruses, because that is the best we could have gone with. We had no idea of this one. This virus, however, turned out to be quite a bit of a surprise. And there are surprises all over. For example, and this question has not been answered as yet, and I find it very curious, that the highest fatality rates and infection rates from this virus have been among the richest countries in the world. Now, some of the richest countries have been irresponsible, like say America has been irresponsible under Trump, or at least the red states in America, states run by Republican governors, have been more irresponsible than the rest. Or Brazil has been irresponsible. But there are other countries in Europe, for example, the richest countries in the world. So the country with the highest fatality rate in the world is the country at the heart of Europe, that is Belgium, where the EU headquarters is located. Now Belgium, with a per capita income of about $53,000, that is more than 27 times India's per capita income. Belgium has a per million fatality rate of 1600, 1600. And then there's a whole bunch of countries which are in that 4-figure bracket, 4 figures, unfortunate 4 figures of deaths per million. I will just reel off their numbers in their ranking right now. It's bad, dubious ranking, but Belgium, the worst. Peru, the next at about 1130. Italy, 1070 to 1080, depending on when you see the cutoff. When I last checked, Spain about 1020, Bosnia Herzegovina about 1020, Slovenia 1010, UK just crossed 1,000 per million. Very rich countries. USA just crossed 950, 960. I think by the time we wake up in a day, it will be more. So USA will cross 1,000 per million very soon. In fact, the head of the Center of Disease Control in the US said just yesterday, and I saw those headlines in American media late last night as I was reading up global media, he said that for another 60 days or so, America may see more deaths per day than 3,000. That is more deaths per day than all of the people killed in 9/11 attacks, and that's already happened for the past few days in America. And then you go on to countries which are pushing at this dubious 1,000 per million threshold. So there is Czech Republic 915. Remember, we had done a Kathak letter specifically on the Czech Republic about 7 months back, where we talked about how their early resort to masks had kept the virus away and they had escaped the first wave. But you know, this virus, we tell you all the time, this is very arrogant. This virus may not have a body, it may not even be a living being, but it has an ego. So if anybody thinks they've defeated the virus, it comes back and catches you when you're complacent. So possibly Czech Republic got complacent and they didn't see the next wave coming, and now they have 920 per million already, among the worst in the world. Brazil has 900, but we know its president thought this virus was a joke and a minor flu. Then you have France, nearly 900. And then you come to a very interesting country, and that is the country we'll talk about in a little more detail. We did so earlier in our episode 488 as well. That is on June 4, 6 months back. Now we'll talk about Sweden. Sweden's deaths per million today are over 750 and rising, and it's a small country, small rich country, per capita income of about $56,000. That is more than 28 times India's per capita income. Now one thing you could say for all these developed rich countries, because the question was, why are the rich developed countries seeing such a high number of infections and such a high number of fatalities? Now infections you can understand. You can say the awareness is more, their ability to test is more, their resources are more, they are testing a lot more, so they are getting a lot more cases. That's what Donald Trump has been saying, if you test more, you will get more cases. That's also true. But then why more fatalities? Because these countries also have the best health systems. So one fact we know, and that is an indisputable fact, which is that these are much older countries. All the European countries have average age or mean age in their 40s. So countries like Belgium, Sweden, for example, have about 41. Italy is probably the oldest, 48, 47 and a half, 48. In comparison, if you want to see India, and once again people say, why is India's fatality rate low? Millions must be dying somewhere and being hidden. No such thing is happening. Maybe a few deaths, but not as if India's real fatality figures can be 3 times or 4 times as high as they are. But India's mean age or average age today is 28 years. So there's a big difference between an average age of 28 and say 48 for Italy, and that makes a big difference, because as we had shared one more data point with you some time back, when you see data that says that 47% of people who are dying in India are under 60 years of age, right? Then you have to look at the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that those above 60 years of age in India are 52%, 53% of all the dead. Then you look at the base statistics. The base statistics are that 92% of Indians are below 60 years old, because we are a young country. Only 8% of Indians are above 60 years old, that is my age bracket. So what happens is that 8% of Indians account for 52% of the dead. So you extrapolate that to countries which have average age of 48 compared to 28 in India, and then people say, oh, how come Pakistan's fatality rate can be so little. Now, how good Pakistan's data is, I don't know. But there is a rationale, because if India's average age is 28, Pakistan's average age is 24. So once again, it makes a big difference, because it means that people above a certain age are much fewer in Pakistan as a percentage of population than in India. So age is one important factor. But even within these countries, why are these variations? And why does a country like Sweden end up in such a mess? Now, we focus on Sweden because as this pandemic started and every country started looking at various models available, how to deal with this pandemic, people went to epidemiologists, virologists, clinicians, astrologers, whoever. So Sweden followed a different model. Sweden said there is no point fighting this virus, and there is no point shutting down your country because of the virus. You cannot escape the virus. So this virus will threaten older people. It will not cause so much damage to younger people. In any case, there is no vaccine in sight, and our experience with the other viruses in the past tells us that herd immunity is the way. So keep schools open, keep colleges open, keep businesses open, give people advice on voluntarily distancing themselves from each other. Don't force anything, and this virus will wash through our population and go away. That's why we look at Sweden. Sweden now is a complete mess. Sweden has fatality rate of 750 per million, and more are being added. Sweden also, at a time when all its neighbors have loosened up and where business is now back to normal, Sweden is now enforcing a lockdown, something they avoided for almost a year. Now they are having to do it. I don't want to say they're having to swallow their pride. It's an honest intellectual error that Swedish planners have made. And as I had said in episode 488, sometimes it comes from relying on only one set of scientists or relying on only one science, which in this case was epidemiology, and Sweden relied on its chief epidemiologist, Andre Tegnell, whose idea it was, and he was in fact quite firm about this. He said, and there are interviews and there are emails in which he is quoted, he said, it would be good if the virus swept like a storm over Sweden and infected basically everyone in 2 months. That's a quote from him in an interview. Now that has gone wrong. He's also acknowledged lately that that has gone wrong, but nobody had imagined that this will go wrong this much. Now see some comparisons. Now Sweden is a Scandinavian country. There are 3 Scandinavian countries, 3 kingdoms. I don't want to say former kingdoms because they are kingdoms technically. That is Sweden, Norway and Denmark. They are comparable in their social indicators. They also represent a social democratic utopia. दुनिया का socialism कैसा हो, Scandinavia जैसा हो. So many people wish to have Scandinavian passports because they are the most perfect welfare states, great medical system, everything is looked after. In fact, in many of these places, private medical care more or less does not exist because the state takes care of everything. So these are comparable countries. They also do a lot of their stuff together. So look at Sweden, look at Finland, look at Denmark. Sweden now has had 750 per million deaths, 7,500 deaths. For a population of 1 crore, if you apply that principle to India, then India's debt, instead of what they are right now, about 1,40,000, would have been 1,50,000. So you can imagine if India's fatalities were 8 times as much as they are right now, 7 to 8 times. India's deaths per million right now is 103, 104. That is how many people died in Sweden. But in comparison, Denmark has had 165 per million, Finland has had 84 per million, and Norway has had 71 per million. Norway and Denmark are Scandinavian countries. Finland is also a bordering country of the same type. So these countries are all doing very well. One with 65 per million, one with 106 per million, one with 84 per million, one is 71 per million. So if you compare Norway and Sweden, for example, Sweden's fatality rate is almost 11 times as much as its neighbor Norway's. The difference is that Norway, Denmark, Finland, they use the conventional approach of lockdowns, which is maximum panic to begin with. We don't know what this virus is. Be humble, lockdown. Don't take the risk of letting this virus wash through their population. That's what Sweden did, and Sweden's paying for it. Populations, you can see that Sweden's population is 1 crore, Denmark is 58 lakhs, Finland is 55 lakhs, Norway is 55 lakhs also. Per capita incomes 55,000 for Sweden, 60,000 for Denmark, 52,000 for Finland, 66,900 for Norway. Norway, as you know, is also an oil and energy power because they found so much oil in the seas. Now, what's happened with Sweden today is instructive. So, Sweden's head of health services, or Stockholm's head of health services, Stockholm is the biggest city in Sweden and capital, he has asked for help. Said, we need help because our ICUs are at 99% capacity. Our ICUs cannot accommodate anybody. So Björn Eriksson, who's director of healthcare in Stockholm, he has said, I need extra nurses, I need staff, and Norway and Denmark now are sending health workers and staff to Sweden. And Sweden went their own way because they said this was the way. And I will tell you a little bit later how a lot of the world also seemed to like that. Then the Prime Minister of Sweden, Stefan Löfven, he said that now I am going to keep these high schools closed till the end of the term. That's a big change. And so herd immunity tactics or strategy that Sweden follow has ended up in a catastrophe now. Hospitals are overflowing, bodies are piling up in morgues. Who had imagined such a thing happening in the most perfect social democratic rich state in the world? This is what Sweden's having right now. If I read global media, it's described as a textbook mass casualty event because Sweden kept its schools, businesses open. They never imagined there will be deaths on a massive scale, but deaths are taking place on a massive scale. Once again, when you see 7,500, think of India's fatalities already with about this many fatalities. It looks like all of us know somebody or know of somebody who passed away because of COVID. So can you imagine if we had the same rate of fatalities as Sweden, God forbid, how bad would it look? And how bad would it look if we were almost 30% richer, 28% richer than we are right now, living in this very secure, perfect world. But this has gone wrong in Sweden. You want to look at this data from other points of view. Today, Sweden's recording 5,000 positive cases a day. Extrapolate that to India, so multiply by 138, because Sweden is 1 crore, India is 138, that will be 6,90,000 new cases every day. At this point, fingers crossed, touch wood, India has about 30,000 a day, but suppose it was 7 lakhs a day. That is what Sweden's getting right now. Now, when Sweden started this, because Sweden is a virtuous country, the entire world respects Sweden. Sweden is held in awe because Sweden has such high quality of life indicators, and it is a very sound and very well run socialist system, a kind of socialist capitalist system. So people tend to take anything coming out of Sweden seriously, particularly if it's to do with public health. So Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, Financial Times, they all wrote articles and editorials praising the Swedish approach. Washington Post said, for example, this is the right call, it's an example worth emulating. Der Spiegel, the German magazine, they gave a long interview to Johan Carlson, who is General Director of Swedish Public Health Agency, who said that what's happening in the other parts of Europe by way of lockdowns, etc., is excessive. Financial Times had an editorial headline, Sweden chooses a third way on coronavirus. And Foreign Affairs, the respected American journal brought out by Council on Foreign Relations, they had an article that said Sweden's coronavirus strategy will soon be the world's. Fortunately, it did not become the world's, although some countries tried to follow it. Some America, also because it suited Trump, and also Boris Johnson in UK, who initially tried following it and then pulled back from it in time, has still suffered heavily, but maybe not as badly as some of the other countries in Europe have. But in fact, how open Boris Johnson was to the idea of herd immunity, he made that famous statement where he said that maybe some of us will lose our loved ones before we deserve to lose them, or some of our loved ones will lose their lives before they deserve to. That means let some Buddhas die, that's part of life, let the virus wash through our population. But he stopped in his tracks early enough, otherwise UK would have been a much bigger disaster. Now once again look at the situation in Sweden right now. So we have Senora Ribeiro, who's chairwoman of Swedish Association of Health Professionals. She tells you of how difficult it is now to find health professionals, nurses, doctors. They are leaving and going away. So, and because they are fatigued, they are sick, and she's saying the situation is terrible, untenable. Qualified people are not available, and because they are not available, we cannot increase our ICU capacity. Remember, this is in Sweden. Then we also have the Swedish broadcaster TV4 with data which shows that in 13 of the 21 regions of Sweden, resignations of health workers, nurses, doctors are much higher than in the previous year. In some of these regions, it's reaching 500 resignations a month. It's a small country, so much smaller regions, very small population. So this is a lot of resignations. Then Stockholm County Mayor Irene Svenonius, she says that situation is extremely tense. I need more staff. Nurses are unwilling to subject themselves to this kind of hours. They are suffering. And once again go back to Senora Ribeiro, who says, I talked to many people in August, that is nurses and medical workers, who said they would resign if that is the only way to get some time off and recover, because we have a disaster caused by exhaustion, sickness and infection. So that's Sweden. So once again, this is not Schadenfreude. This is not to say this one's approach is right, this one's wrong. All countries, all experts faced something new for the first time. They did not have precedents about this virus, so they went by whatever was available. Some have got more wrong than others, some might have got more right than others. In this case, two things we cannot deny, and both are counterintuitive. One, that the richest developed countries in the world have had the largest amount of infections and the largest rate of fatalities. And two, even among them, Sweden, with the best healthcare system, with the best quality of human resources, has come unstuck in such a bad way.